Staying tuned to Niger Delta Today. Well, it's a celebratory mood here in Akwa Ibom State. We'll be discussing Akwa Ibom at 38, a state with rich culture, the oil wealth, and everyday struggles of its people. Discussions are already open as to how the state can channel these 38 years into a clearer path for growth and development. And we are poised to also continue that discourse here on the program. With us today is Organization Development Consultant Obong Marvel Essien. Thank you very much for coming on the program, Obong Marvel Essien.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Syria.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you for coming.
Well, 37 years of state creation, statehood in Akwa Ibom State. And when you look at the journey thus far, would you say that it has really lived up to its expectation?
Yeah, severe, difficult question to answer if it has lived up to its expectation. Of course, some of us would have expected us would have achieved more milestones in Akwa Ibom State, but you cannot also say that we have achieved nothing. We've achieved so much within these 38 years, especially where you are able to appreciate where we are coming from. You see, creation of states in Nigeria had always been a matter of people crying out, agitation against marginalization, agitation for development of a particular area. We've had several of such agitations in the past. And of course, you remember that we were running a regional government up till 1967 when the crisis began, and we had to create 12 states. That's through the administration of General Yakubu Gowon. After the creation of that 12 states, you had another government come in to create a few more states to make it 19 states. And of course, when you look at the series of creation of states by the military regime, it were all done to see how to answer to certain agitations about marginalization and development. And for us, we celebrate today because we have a geographical area that we are also developing at the pace that is far better than if we were still clamped together with the Cross River State, Southern State as it was. We stayed with, imagine from the south of Eket or Ron being the same state with Ogoja and Obudu up north, and how large the state was. And for us, with the population that we are having down south here, it was quite important that we have a state of our own. And I still remember that day that IBB, General Ibrahim Babangida, announced that Akwa Ibom State has been created out from Cross River State, and the celebration that took place that day and beyond. And today we look back to say that we thank God for that creation of Akwa Ibom State because of this level of development that we have achieved so far, even though there is still a huge gap that we are yet to fill.
It actually hasn't stemmed the side of agitation. We still have agitation for most states.
Of most states. That's why I say we will continue
even here in Akwa Ibom State, the governor was addressing the same issue.
We would continue to have several agitations for creation of states, so long as we have not addressed our leadership deficiencies.
What are those deficiencies?
We have a political situation in Nigeria that keeps throwing up people in government that is not widely accepted, as if we have a very good recruitment system in Nigeria, and that has led to a lot of people feeling marginalized in certain situations. And in most cases, you see the kind of politics that we play. So even when you want to allocate resources, how do you go about allocating these resources? And that had been the main bane of people crying out for agitation for creation of states. If you also look at it closely, you want to say how justifiable is most of those cries for agitation or agitation for creation of state. You'll find out that it is just about political power. It's just about selfish interest, because if we are addressing development issues, even if we were to run a regional system, we would still be able to achieve a level of development that would assuage the needs of the people to a very large extent.
Well, when we look at Akwa Ibom, we see that the first thing that comes to mind when people hear of Akwa Ibom, oh, it's oil rich and it gets a lot of revenue because of the kind of oil that comes out from this state. But then you look down really inwardly and you get to see that there are still a lot of issues. We talk about issues of poverty and persons still living below the poverty line, trying to survive. Well, when you look at the track record of leaders that we've had over the years and the efforts that they have made and contributions towards state growth and development, are there still a lot that needs to go into the workings? Can we truly develop our economy beyond that dependence on oil? And would you say that the leaders that we've had so far have done enough work towards ensuring that we are self-sufficient and
Xavier, that's stable? Why you would hear questions like, is oil a blessing or a curse? Because the revenue that we are generating from oil, is it really reliable? We talk about diversification, and we know you've already acknowledged that Akwa Ibom is a very rich state. You look at Akwa Ibom, the kind of resources we have in Akwa Ibom state. You look at, for example, the palm oil, the palm produce. I mean, don't just say palm oil, the palm produce. You see, we have a city in Akwa Ibom called the Raffia City. Yeah. That's an economic expression of what that city is very active in doing. And that should be a very big plus. That should also contribute a lot to our gross income in the state.
Have they tapped into that?
There are lacunas here and there.
But I understand it was working back in the days.
Yes, of course. It was not a Raffia City for nothing. It had something to offer. You have, even till date, you have a lot of skilled people, craftsmanship that you can imagine when you go to that part of Akwa Ibom state. And that's a position of comparative advantage to other places that may also have a big strength, maybe in fishing, that's call it maritime economy, blue economy development, or you want to talk about areas that have things of tourist interest and so on. So Akwa Ibom is very rich, but you see, we have these gaps, and of course, we cannot also say that we have not achieved anything in Akwa Ibom state. We have gaps. We are looking forward to having more records of achievements and more focus on our developmental stage that we are experiencing currently.
Okay, well, let's talk about the health and the education systems. Recently, we've talked about maternal and child health and the efforts that are being made towards ensuring that the health sector are strengthened as much as possible. You want to speak to that and give some insights regarding what you feel that the health system currently should look like in Akwa Ibom State, especially in light of the recent developments in the health sector. You heard that trending story about the lady who fortunately lost her life in Ikolipene Hospital, and the many probes that have gone into investigating that particular issue.
We look at the trending issue, just highlighting the problem that has been existing in the state for a very long time. 3-4 years ago, we've been talking in the media about the state of healthcare development in Akwa Ibom State. And of course, if people have not been listening or paying attention to it, it has led to this trending issue that has helped for government to now declare a state of emergency.
Must it get to that level before something is done?
That's the kind of governance issues that we keep talking about, because this has been existing for a very, very long time. You go to hospitals, the kind of attention that it cuts across the primary, secondary, or the tertiary hospitals. The health care delivery system had been questionable for a very long time. But thank God the government has declared a state of emergency, even though that state of emergency is addressing the recruitment, is going to address the recruitment issues in terms of thinking that it is the lacuna in recruitment or the number of people that we have in the healthcare system that is making it us get to this level. But of course, I would say boldly that it goes beyond that.
Okay.
So having built the infrastructure, you provide the human resources, you need to support it with training and development.
All right, let's look at the tourism sector. And the Obong Marvel has actually been clamoring when it has to do with tourism, trying to do a lot. How do you think the state is blessed enough to tap from the tourism sector?
The state is highly blessed in tourism. Apart from the tourist sites that abound in the state, you think of the Mary Slessor story, You see, that reminds me, you see, I hear recently the state government talking about how distorted the history of Nigeria had been because the amalgamation of Nigeria in 1940 was actually signed in Akwa Ibom. I hear the state government talk about the 1929 Aba women riot that we used to think it took place at Aba, and on the side it took place here in Akwa Ibom, in Akwa Ibom State. So sometimes you see history being distorted. That's why I was a bit concerned this morning when I heard someone talk about Akwa Ibom State being named after Akwa River Hotel, Akwa River in Akwa Ibom State. You see, those things do happen that you get those things distorted. But if we develop our tourism to the extent that it could also be helping to tell our stories, then it will go a long way. In the past, we used to have state museums. I know one at All Run. I don't know the state of that museum at All Run today. I know there have been attempts to create museums to be able to tell the story of Akwa Ibom State. But so far, you see the projects like the recent tourist site that has been developed along Brook Street. I call it Dominic Avenue.
Yeah.
Rice Park.
Rice Park, yes. Park. It's quite a beautiful initiative that will bring in a lot of. And the thing about tourism is that when you are able to position and promote tourism in this regard, you are able to attract investors to your state as well. Because as people are coming to relax, one mind will be thinking about business, and they will be seeing opportunities in Akwa Ibom State. And of course, anyone that comes to Akwa Ibom State to stay and observe the kind of peace that we have in this state, observe the kind of hospitality that we have, even our Kisayans, we talk about Afang soup.
So how do we actually preserve this tourist site? Because you have some places that were developed and because of maintenance and all the situation, the place becomes moribund, especially I think at the amalgamation house, if you go there now, it's actually not a sight to behold.
The maintenance culture calls the question. This is, you see, we talk about sometimes our fears of you have government come into institute policies, they initiate good, excellent programs, and at the end of their tenure, you don't see those things happening. But like following your question, I would tell you, if we have a very strong three arms of government, it could help a long way, because in democracy, the provision has already been made for checks and balances. So if you have a legislative arm of government that can be promulgating some of these things into law and make it that you cannot change this, you should be able to promote this, you should be able to focus on this for a long period of time. If you are able to write a development plan and you legislate on the development plans, it would help to a large extent that you don't see things changing, you don't see people abandoning projects. If an outgoing government goes today, if a new incoming government is not lenient enough, they will abandon the project initiated by the old government. But these are things that we would have used our democratic values to institutionalize in our system through all this legislation on important matters like this. You gave an example of some of these tourist sites. Nothing stops the House of Assembly from legislating on it and forming a commission to ensure the continuity of any program run in that regard.
Well, I was still talking about tourism, and I'd like us to talk with the other projects that the state government has embarked on outside the state, which have also come under scrutiny. Some citizens are of the opinion that those projects should be cited here. For instance, the hotel that is being planned in Abuja, and of course another facility in Lagos that is supposed to rake in revenue for the state. The government has also given clarity regarding why it is embarking on those investments, but then there are still dissenting voices. Even the project that we have locally here in Akwa Ibom State, for instance, the intelligent building, is not still used up to par and in full capacity.
Placement, yeah.
Do you think that there are areas that should be looked into when we talk about some of these issues?
Important thing is the knowledge of placement of economic values on projects or any direction government chooses to follow. You see, I laugh when I hear people criticizing a venture that is positioned to increase our internally generated revenue. We all know the position of Lagos in Africa. When it comes to property business, real estate, apart from maybe talk about Pretoria in South Africa, Lagos comes up tops in Africa. And what does that mean? It means that Akwa Ibom State government can generate a lot of revenue from the property business. And if they choose to do so, it's something that should be commended by citizens of Akwa Ibom State, looking at it as a profit venture. That's part of the things we talk about politics and how people run comments at things that they may not really have full knowledge about. And you think about the hotel in Abuja. All these ventures are to bring revenue to Akwa Ibom State. Akwa Ibom State is positioned in a manner that today it seems to be over 80% dependent on federal allocation. If that federal allocation stops, if oil price drops, like we witnessed during the COVID-19, what happens to the administration of Akwa Ibom State? Can Akwa Ibom State even run its government house without, internally generated revenue? So if a government chooses to look for ventures that will bring in revenue to the state, we have no reason to criticize such ventures. Government should be encouraged as much as possible to put in investment in areas that should bring in revenue. I also would want to commend the three crop planting initiative of this government. You see, I heard a long time ago that Malaysia came to Nigeria to take palm fruit seedlings to be able to grow their economy. Today, Malaysia, I think they come second in the world when it comes to palm oil, following Indonesia. Nigeria comes about 5th or 4th place in the world when it comes to palm produce, but Nigeria should be number 1. Even within the country here, when we talk about palm fruit, it's Edo State that comes number 1. And it shouldn't be so, because Akwa Ibom State have had palm produce, and the soil and everything supports the growth of palm produce in Nigeria. So Akwa Ibom State should be number 1 in palm produce. So if the governor has chosen to pay attention to that area, it means that if you take the property area, you take the tree crop planting area, then you're going to have a very beautiful economy for Akwa Ibom State in the near future.
All right, Obong Marvel, let's talk with this particular issue, which is, of course, every new administration come in with their different slogan and big projects. But then, how do we ensure that when these new administrations come in, the task of development, the task of ensuring that the state actually reaches those goals and visions that it has, are not restarted every 4 years? Is there really those steps that can be taken towards ensuring that our leaders are held to account and they're able to truly fulfill the dictates of their blueprints that they present to the people?
When you are looking at development process, you see Akwa Ibom State is still having that teething problem in its development. So a government comes and lays out beautiful plan and comes up with something maybe like Dakada. Now we're talking about the agenda of Arise. Of course, these are things that are basic to the development of Akwa Ibom State. It focuses on this area, focuses on that area. But one thing we will give to the state is that after the military administrations in the state, from 1999, we have consistently been having leaders in the state that have had one thing or the other to impact on the state. You cannot take away the architectural plan of Akwa Ibom State from Governor Atta, as it were, in his time. You cannot also take about the development of roads in Akwa Ibom State from Governor Akpabio, as it were, even to the building of the stadium, many infrastructures in Akwa Ibom State. And of course, Obong Emmanuel also contributed a lot to development
so really
of
there's
roads.
strategic.
Yes, growth process of growth in Akwa Ibom State. And today, we have a governor that has come in with a philosophical way of looking at governance in the state. And all this in the near future, 38 is still young when you think of a state. So in the near future, I'm very optimistic and positive that Akwa Ibom State will be well grounded. It's not as if there are no gaps to be filled. We should do more in terms of creating a beautiful economic environment. But we are not there yet. We are moving towards that plan. And we have had leaders that have contributed immensely to where it's taking us to in the next few years.
I think we would end with that optimism because it's on a positive note. Thank you very much, Obong Marvel Essien, Organization Development Consultant, for speaking to us. And happy anniversary again.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Marvel.
Happy anniversary, Sifon and
Happy anniversary.